Stories in today's video. 1. I kicked my pregnant girlfriend out of my house when I found out the child wasn't mine too. My boyfriend cheated and showed me the pictures of the S**x ting and N day. My ex and I had been together for 2 years. It was rocky for the last couple months when she lost her job and just seemed to refuse to look for work, just living for free in my house, causing me to have to financially support us both. I also suspected she was cheating on me, and eventually I broke up with her and she left to live with her parents. A few weeks later she comes knocking on my door to let me know she's pregnant with my child. She was practically beaming with glee. I agreed to let her stay with me again, as my home would be a healthier place to stay, as her mom smokes like a chimney and refused to stop smoking inside when she found out her daughter was pregnant. Didn't want my child subjected to that. The one caveat to this arrangement being we would go in a couple weeks and get a paternity test done. She very happily agreed. Her reaction actually washed away some of the fears I had about her possibly cheating on me. So she lives with me for a couple weeks and we go to get the test done. We find out that the child isn't mine, and like a switch is flipped, I honestly no longer care about that kid anymore and tell her to pack up her sh*t and get out of my house. This was a week ago. She moved her stuff back to her parents' house, but is staying with a friend to avoid the cigarette smoke and other problems there. She, her friends, and even a few of our mutual friends are texting and messaging me about how I'm a terrible person for doing this to that innocent child. That I have plenty of room in my home and I should just help her out. I feel like I've been through the emotional ringer these past months, and I've been through every emotion I am capable of feeling. From realizing I was possibly a father to the betrayal when her cheating was confirmed, honestly I feel so emotionally raw, and sometimes I agree with them. That maybe I should take her back and just care for the kid. Was I unfair to this unborn child? Am I a total piece of sh*t for not wanting them in my home in this vulnerable time for them? It was my first girlfriend. Let's call her Jezebel, or Jez for short. And it was the fall of my sophomore year in college. We were introduced by her roommate Jen, who was dating my best friend Bob. The very first time I met Jez, I happened to have a bunch of scabs on my legs. I played softball almost every night during the summer, and I slid enough that my legs got pretty cut up because I wore shorts when I played. Within 20 minutes of meeting this girl, she asked me if she could pick at the scabs, which were healing by that point. I was a little grossed out, but also mystified that a girl was showing me any attention at all. I didn't let her, but we talked for a long while that day about other things. Fast forward a week or so, and I was coming off of a particularly horrific weekend in which a drunken situation at a party totally threw my world into relative chaos. I had a small list of personal problems in college, and this bad weekend had put it in my head that I needed to get drunk and just walk into the ocean. Bob found my plan out, and redirected me to bring the beers to Jen's house, and we'd binge Star Wars, back in the days when there were only 3 of them. So we sat in his girlfriend's house and drank beers and watched the Star Wars saga. Jen came home in time to see the Death Star blow up. By the time Luke was on his way to Dagobah, Jez came home, and plopped down next to me and started drinking with us. By the time the Ewoks were trying to cook the heroes of the New Republic, Jen and Bob had retired to Jen's room. Jez told me she wanted me to sleep there because I had been drinking, and that it was okay because she had bunk beds. I agreed. We both ended up in the bottom bunk anyway, and that was my first time, because she pretty much just instantly jumped me when I got into bed with her. We dated for 3 months, and roughly 2 of them were spent yelling at each other. We fought a lot, over dumb things. But I always went back because I was too dumb to know any better and had never had success winning over a woman before. I didn't want to walk away from the first girl who ever showed actual interest in me. Every fight was inevitably followed by makeup s**x anyway, so I just kept stumbling along behind her. So Christmas comes, and Jen's throwing a huge party at the house. Bob invites a buddy of his from high school named Ray, whom I had met about a year previously when Bob hosted a 4-man poker game at his parents' house. I'm working that afternoon, so I get to the party super late. I greet everyone warmly, and Jez comes bouncing over to me and gives me a quick hug before wandering off to get more booze. I greet Ray, who gives me an awkward handshake, and busies himself with a gin and tonic. I think nothing of it. And the party eventually winds down. I technically lived on campus, but I spent every night at Jez and Jen's place, so I was of a mind to spend the night there again, but Jez seemed irritated. I finally asked her if she wanted me to go back to my apartment on campus, but she said she wanted me to stay, so I did. Just before New Year's, she went home for winter break, just after she told me that she missed her period and thought she might be pregnant, even though she was on the pill. It is not 100% effective, you guys, no matter what she says. So she goes home for winter break, and never returned my calls, which grew more and more frantic without knowing what her status was. I called her on our 4-month anniversary, first-time boyfriends are so dumb, to say happy anniversary, so are you pregnant, and she informed me that we had broken up just after Christmas, despite the fact that we had had x a couple of times after that. And then informed me that no, she had gotten her monthlies, like, a day after she told me she might be preggers. So there I was, disappointed that I no longer had a girlfriend and yet overjoyed that I no longer had that girlfriend, and that I wasn't trapped by a child with her. So what was so strange about that? Next time I saw Bob after New Year's, he told me that Ray had confessed to him after the party that Jez had invited him to sleep over, and that it was okay, because she had bunk beds, and that her plan was to jump on him just like she had jumped on me 3 months prior, even though she knew I was coming to the party just a few hours later and was spending the night as usual. That's why Ray was awkward around me. So the next poker night a few months later, I casually mentioned to Ray that he has superpowers. He looks at me weird, so I say, well, you can dodge bullets. He gets a super serious look on his face. I say to him, remember when my girlfriend tried to get you to sleep with her at the Christmas party? She's C King lunatic, you sure dodged a bullet that night, and started cracking up. That broke the tension between Ray and I. That was a fun game of poker played that night. My ex and I started dating in June 2015. I was 19 going to be 20 and he was 22. I met him at a very low point in my life and for a long time I thought he was a godsend and he had saved me. We were together for 3 years and 4 months and we broke up October 2018. There are several parts to this story, so bear with me. In the summer of 2017, I cheated on him. I went to a party, got too drunk and made out with a dude on the couch. That's as far as it went, and later I went home. I need no one to tell me it was a low and shish *tty thing to do. I felt awful about it. The ride home was sickening and I had to stop to vomit because how guilty and nasty I felt. I told him as soon as I arrived home. I expected the worst, as I should have. He was mad and upset. I told him everything he needed to know. He calmed down and told me he didn't want to talk about it anymore and wanted to go to bed. When we woke up the next morning, he told me it would be okay and we could get through it. I told him he didn't have to do that. I felt terrible. He said it would take some time for him to get over and earn my trust back, which I totally understood. Things went back to the way they were. Fast forward to January 2018. He was going on a 3-week trip to Colorado for work. I was allowed to go but decided to stay back since we recently had gotten a new cat and I was worried about leaving him on his own. It was a long 3 weeks and the day came to pick him up from the airport. He didn't hug me or kiss me. He just threw his suitcases into the car. At the time, I thought maybe it was jet lag or he was tired. When we arrived home, he unpacked and went to bed. I didn't think about it again until months later. We broke up for the first time around the end of February, beginning of March. My relationship with him became controlling and manipulating, but not in an aggressive way. He played the victim anytime something would happen and everything was always my fault. He didn't drink and didn't smoke for personal reasons. He hated alcohol, parties and anything he didn't like, to say the least. In a completely respectful way, he was a square. Nothing wrong with that. I, on the other, was an old soul, free-spirited. I enjoyed a GL*SS of wine in the evening and occasionally smoked weed. When I wasn't working, I was gaming, reading, or at the gym. I had a curfew and I barely spent time with the one girlfriend that I had. He didn't like her and she didn't not enjoy his company. There was a clash in politics and they simply didn't get along. So in February I told him that we were growing into very different people. We didn't enjoy the same things and felt like roommates most of the time. I didn't want to resent him as I got older for settling and getting too comfortable too soon. It was a heartbreaking conversation, but we both understood. We separated and I slept on the couch until my new apartment would be available. I went out with friends, met new people and worked. I enjoyed life. Nearing the time to move into my new apartment, I panicked. I'd never lived on my own before. I was terrified. In April, I was relieved when he messaged me and asked if we could meet up and talk. He wanted to get back together and that he was sorry for how he treated me. I called my landlord and told her I wasn't taking the apartment and that I understood I wasn't getting the deposit back. I lied and told myself that this is what I wanted and that things would be okay. One night, I got a text from his ex-girlfriend while he was playing hockey. She informed me that he had been messaging her and was even so kind to send me screenshots asking her for S*X and BJS. I lost it. I called him and left him voicemails and text messages. I couldn't believe what I saw. I had a complete mental breakdown and was placed in the hospital under a 72-hour watch. He admitted to everything and I asked him if there was anything else I needed to know. I would ask him this many times later on, in which he would always reply, "No babe, that's it." She called me the following morning and told me that not only was he texting her but he had an email that I knew nothing about. I was able to log into it after a couple tries and found picture after picture, video after video, dating back a year and a half of him f***c king girls in our bed, our house and in our car. On top of that I found email threads from girls and guys he was having conversations with. I scrolled until I could no longer see from the tears in my eyes. He was not there with me at the time. He had went home after I was admitted and said he would see me in the morning. I don't know how many messages I sent or how many voicemails I left. He called me on his way to the hospital. I told him I would talk to him when he got there. We talked and cried about everything when he arrived. He told me he had unresolved issues from his childhood that led him to do such things. He told me he didn't know why he did those things and that he was sorry. I did the only thing I thought I could. I forgave him and told him we'd get through it. I again asked him if there was anything else that I needed to know. Again he replied with no. After being under a 72-hour watch, I was discharged and taken to a rehabilitation, mental evaluation clinic where I felt violated, alone and tortured for 4 days. I had to be given drugs to sleep because I could not close my eyes without losing my sh*t. We called each other and spoke every day. Those were some of the longest days. It was terrifying. After spending what felt like an eternity in there, the psychiatrist deemed me able to go home. When he came to pick me up, he had bought me flowers and a card. Even bought me a pack of cigarettes so I could have one when I got out. We had a long talk the car ride home and we told each other we could still work this out. We just had to be honest with each other. We always had each other's p*s swords to everything. We just never felt the need to invade each other's privacy like that. We lasted until August when he stopped being transparent and changed all his p*s swords. He stated, "We didn't need to do that anymore. I thought this was sketchy but didn't ask anything of it." Then I got a call from one of his friends telling me that not only had he cheated on his Colorado trip but also he would call this friend every time he cheated to tell him how good it was. He informed that this started happening a few months after I cheated. When I asked him about it, he finally came clean and I knew why he had acted so weird when he got off the plane and came home. I gave it 6 months after that. I couldn't get over the pictures and videos I had seen and the messages I had read. I felt I deserved it because I had been unfaithful, but I came clean right after it happened. I didn't hide it in emails and didn't tell my ex or my friend. It made me sick to my stomach. I ended it in October. In the end, we were not bad people, we just made bad decisions. It was a mutual breakup. We grew into very different people the 3 years we were together. We both still talk sometimes to catch up and we both are very happy in life.